I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, TV's favorite true crime podcast team looks into a mob wife, a trio of billionaires, and a secret casino beneath the Arconia to find out who killed their doorman. We'll talk about season 5 of Only Murders in the Building. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories, my husband, love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca. You kind of messed that up, but it's okay. It's live. We're just going to keep going with it.
I need you to mute my mic for a second so I can cough properly.
Okay. All right. There you go. Stop coughing. All right.
Also with us, private investigator, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca. I'm coming to you from the new Studio B. Unlike yours in the basement, this is a podcast studio on the side of my bedroom.
That's very exciting. I like your black background.
Yeah.
It's very mysterious. There's
It's
only a little corner of room showing behind you.
Yep.
You need to get a green screen so you can put Rockettes and shit behind you.
I could be like the
videos.
Lester's replacement doorman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And finally with us, our resident Doubting Thomas, author of the City Trilogy, host of Strange Arrivals, and the new season of Rip Current. It's Toby Ball. Hello, Toby.
Hey, Rebecca.
So, Toby, I hear that your podcast trailer just dropped.
It just dropped this morning, or if you're listening to this tomorrow, it was yesterday. If you can wrap your head around that.
The time-space continuum is...
Wow.
Exactly. So, it dropped on Wednesday, and first episode drops next Wednesday.
It's incredible because, just for some transparency, this show is dropping on Thursday, October 29th? Or 30th.
30th, yes.
We're taping this the night before. So you know what that means.
Late night for Kevin.
Kevin Flynn is going to be editing this whole thing so it can drop tomorrow morning. It's very exciting.
All
so
right.
we're very sorry for those of you who pay for ad-free. You're going to be getting it just before the people who get the one with the ads in it. It's just the way it's working out. So, Kevin, what's going up on Monday's show?
So on Monday, we're going to talk about season 3 of The Diplomat. And then on Thursday next week, you're going to hear our review of season 2 of Murder on Music Row.
All right.
And then tonight, we're talking about season 5 of Only Murders in the Building. I guess do we like the same things over and over again? Do we keep going?
We either like them or we just want to revisit them. I think only on Murder on Music Row might surprise people, our conversation about it. It's a very good conversation, and it's going to be an interesting one. Laura, I have a quick question for you before we start the show.
Right.
Did you steal the jewels from the Louvre, yes or no?
Well, that could be something I could do, but I'm only a cat detective, not a jewel thief, so.
Gotcha.
And I'm afraid of heights, so I don't know how I would have done going up that little ladder thing that they put up outside.
But you're following
Probably
the story,
not
right?
well.
It's pretty
Oh my God,
fascinating.
I'm all over it. No, I'm all over it. I think it's like, I'm like, this is like made for a movie. Like, why were they not prepared for this? And how did it take so long for somebody to do this? And they got away on like mopeds, which by the way is where I was like, I could have done that.
Right. I will say the one thing I didn't understand, and I saw a bunch of chatter about this online after I thought of it, so I felt like, oh, I'm smart. Why didn't they just go to Switzerland? It's like close, and Switzerland apparently is like real chill. When you want to drive your moped over the border, they'll just let you go in. And who would expect a bunch of moped people to have like the crown jewels in their backpacks?
Nobody.
Yeah.
Well, I'm following the story too. Kevin, are you?
No.
Toby, are you?
I am a little bit. I was intrigued by that guy with the hat who they had their picture of right there.
I did see that.
And then when it turned out it was just some dude,
Just some dude.
lost my interest
Talk about
a little bit.
misinformation, right? The whole internet thought that I was the guy solving the mystery, and it's just like a guy walking by who happens to be French, and that's why he looks like that. Okay.
Sorry.
So,
had to
Toby,
feel-
That-
Yep.
that's all right. It's nice to see you in your room. We're ready to go, Kevin, are we?
We are, yes.
All right. So let's go ahead and review the thing that we're going to be talking about because all the people are here, and that's what they want us to do. Kevin, let's get it done. Leading off. Podcasters Charles, Oliver, and Mabel are shocked to find a severed finger in a platter of shrimp cocktail. Is it connected to the suspicious death of their doorman or their search for a missing dry cleaning mobster? The investigation takes a turn when they uncover a secret casino hidden beneath the Arconia. The gaming room contains a card table with a cleaver-shaped gash and is frequented by a trio of billionaires, one who's missing a finger. But as they dig deeper into the mystery, stories don't add up, the podcast is muzzled, and the killer remains even more elusive. Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez return for season 5 of Hulu's Emmy-winning Only Murders in the Building. Television's fictional favorite true crime podcast team looks into yet another death or two in the Arconia. The cast of suspects includes a mob widow, a crooked politician, the world's richest people, and a robot. This time, the crew learns the residents aren't the real target, it's the building itself. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about plot points from Season 5 of Only Murders in the Building. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. So, Toby, there are certain trademarks of this program that we've become used to, familiar with. They make us feel like we're coming home. Do you feel like this season includes some of those trademarks?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's got the quirky interior decorating. It's got the cast of eccentric New Yorkers. And, I think, most notably, it's got sort of this continuing theme of loneliness that sort of has pervaded the entire, all the series, is that loneliness and trying to combat loneliness. And I thought this one, I can't remember if other series, maybe I was focusing on other things instead, but it seemed like this one in particular was really concerned about like community and how you create these sort of communities or families where you can find them, and that sort of helps combat loneliness. And there's a few different ways that comes out during the course of the series, but I thought that was a sort of a strong theme, which I think they handled without hitting you over the head with it. You just kind of observe people going through their life without these kind of close bonds.
Yeah.
All the time.
I keep remembering that this show sort of started in the pandemic era, right? So that idea of being in a building, having it be cozy, creating a community among people who just live next door felt right at the time. But Laura, one thing that this season does is it also rolls back to people's history in the Arconia. It's not just here we are today, but we get baby Mabel and so forth.
Mabel. Yeah, I loved baby Mabel. So we have the throwback with the set design to old New York, that sort of vintage feeling, especially with Renee Zellweger's character. Camilla really has that feeling of that old New York. We've got casinos, gangsters, great set design. And then we've got the beginning, like you said, of how everybody arrives at the Arconia. And, we've seen snapshots before of their pasts and how they got there and things that have happened in the past. But we go right back. We see Lester when he arrives. And the whole time I was like, early Lester looks a little too young to have only worked here this many years. The
timeline wasn't quite right there.
It was how is old Lester this old? I'm like, boy, that job. It's like when people become president, they get gray hairs in 4 years.
Poor Diane Wiest. She aged real quick.
My God. But, we start with young Lester and he wants to be an actor. And then, we have Brazos in the height of the Brazos fame, strutting into the lobby, being swarmed, talking about how he's going to be trying out for Gladiator and National Treasure. And we see young Oliver with his then wife and young son. And so we see these people at the beginning. And I think as this particular season goes on, that's a really interesting contrast because we're seeing the beginning contrasted against the potential end and demolition of the Arconia. So it's really pulling on your heartstrings with the nostalgia and just the relationships of Mabel. I loved the scenes of Mabel as she was growing up bonding with Lester, and he's pushing her around on the luggage carriage. And, then she comes in and she's sneaking beer in with her friends with the E or whatever her pop star friends is. The. And so I liked, so that seeing that evolution of the relationships of those characters, now they're solving his murder. I didn't feel that we felt that same level of emotional connection with Mabel to Lester in the present as you see in the past. But I loved seeing all of those characters through the years and then seeing them now.
So, Kevin, even though it's the show has gone away from talking about and making the podcast a central theme in the show, I think this season they kind of brought it back in a really meta way. But one thing they always do consistently is they make episode 2 the victim episode, which is such like a common trope in true crime. First episode, it's like, here's the murder, here's what happened, here's the setup, here's the person who's in prison, yada yada. Second episode, it's like, Mary was a sweet person, a loving person, and here is her whole family. And they kind of honor that again here.
Yeah, I mean, right. That was the Tim Kono episode, and
Yes.
they're like, they definitely like put a flag in that, and they were right to point that out. I was like, yeah, you're right, all these are. But I think the Lester episode was pretty sweet. He was always sort of like this ancillary character, so it's not like he's one of everybody's favorites, so you know a lot about him, but, you know, what it did is it really built like those emotional stakes about why we like him or who he's loved, and he has this beautiful story, and they kind of set it up in this When Harry Met Sally kind of documentary style where like, hey, let's talk to all the doormen. Hey, well, you know, I closed the door on this other guy one time. And so anyway, I thought that set things up pretty well for our victim here and to kind of remember him. And you are absolutely right. That old Lester is way too old to have been that
or young Lester was too young.
Way
for
too
too
young.
long. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, way too. Yeah, I was like, once he got the mustache, I'm like, I can see the resemblance now, but it's still like, that's just like 30 years later.
Yeah.
And how old would you assume Lester is?
In his 70s? Maybe?
Mid-40s. New York,
he looks
New York
older than
age
us.
is
40s.
We're like in our 50s for the most part, and he looks older than we do, right?
Oh, man.
So, Laura Bricker, we have a lot of celebrities now on this show. Obviously, we have our 3
Yeah.
principals. We added Meryl Streep. This season, we have Renee Zellweger, Christopher Waltz. We have Kenan Michael Key. We have Bobby Cannavale. I love him, by the way. I love him so much. We have Téa Leoni. Does it get to a point where there's like a critical mass of too many people pulling from our 3 principal characters?
You know, I kind of wondered, I was thinking about that as I was watching this because I felt like in the earlier seasons, obviously Charles, Oliver, Mabel, they're our central cast. And they on their own, they're like an all-star cast, right? And then we had kind of like these cameos, like, oh, Sting's in the building. And it was like, oh my God, they got Sting in the building. And then we had, was it Melissa McCarthy? Was she the next?
Steve Martin's sister.
Yeah. So we had like, and then Meryl Streep comes in and you're like, okay, cool. And then there are a couple in real life. And I felt like Meryl Streep in this particular season for me, I liked her gold trench coat. I would totally wear it. I want a gold trench coat. I know Toby's going to wear a gold trench coat when he goes to Spain. But that for me, I felt like the Oliver and like Meryl Streep part of that story for me took on too much of a role in a way. Like it like she's now an equal and she's wonderful. Like, don't get me wrong, but I just felt like everybody wants to be on Only Murders in the Building now. And I'm like, it's like the it thing to be on. They're like, oh, that show is so fun. And it's so fun to work on that cast and to work with those people. And like everybody has a cameo and, you know, now we can all be here. And, you know, I'm like, when is enough enough? I think that's the question. As I was wondering, were other people feeling like that? Like, when is enough enough? Have we reached a saturation point with adding all these other celebrities to this cast? What does that bring to the cast other than the, oh, wow, hey, it's the Percy Jackson guy, you know, component to this show?
Well, they even made up a fake celebrity with a real celebrity with Beanie Feldstein playing Thee or V. Or Beanie Feldstein, by the way, she's been in some great films. She's also a Broadway actor. She was in Funny Girl and got horrible reviews, and then Leah Michele replaced her. She's also Jonah Hill's sister, by the way. She's very well known. She's not just like, but she's playing a celebrity. Toby, what do you think about this? Because we have, I think, some characters here played by heavy hitters that sort of work and then some that super work. What do you think?
So I think Christoph Waltz is incredible in this. Just, he's so freaking weird. But it also doesn't seem like he's, it doesn't seem like he's, no, he, is it Bash? I don't know. He's
Bash,
the older guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
He's Bash, yeah.
Skinning.
He's like the Elon Musk sort of weirdo of the whole thing.
But he doesn't seem like he's acting.
No.
I mean,
he's weird. He's a weird dude.
Super freaking weird. And I like Beanie Feldstein too. I thought that was kind of a fun character. Renee Zellweger seemed like she was doing like a prolonged like impersonation of somebody. I was like, it doesn't even really seem like it's acting. It seems like you're kind of doing a bit, and the bit just goes on and on. And I kept waiting for maybe like the bit will go away and you'll see like the real person behind the bit, but no, it was just the bit. And then the other guy who, my youngest child was like, "Oh my God, it's that guy!" And I was like, don't think I've ever seen him before in my life. You know, it's sort of a nothing burger of a role. You know, I mean, he's basically there to like be, I guess, sort of like the Mark Zuckerberg type slacker billionaire, and also to be like just the like latest person to become besotted with Mabel. So those were, I think it was kind of a mixed bag as far as that stuff. I mean, Tia Leone was fun. Bobby Cannavale, he did his thing, but like in a sort of funnier way than usual. But he always
played Bonnie Cannavale.
He's kind of got a he's not necessarily typecast, but he's got like a kind of person that he plays a lot. And,
yes.
And he's got unbelievable hair, would be the other thing I would say. That hair, like, I don't know. It's good genes,
He's one of the great Third Watch alumni, right?
I know. Was he on Third Watch?
He was. On Boardwalk Empire. He's been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
He's really, really good. Kevin, I really liked Keegan-Michael Key as the mayor. Sort of very reminiscent of the Eric Adams administration, just like giving zero fucks about being corrupt in about everything. Eric Adams, by the way, just did an incredible interview. I think it's at The Atlantic. I'm not 100% sure. And the reporter who did it just tweeted, "He gives zero fucks now. Here's my 3 days with him." I sort of felt like he embodied that. But you can't forget about the three incredible actors we have anchoring this show.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So what we've got here, of course, Steve Martin is great as Charles. I'll tell you, one of the things, because Charles is such a reserved character, and Steve Martin has to play him kind of small, that he rarely gets to employ his broad physical comedy that Steve Martin has been known
like
for.
Season 1 when he squeezes himself into the cart.
Yeah.
It was hysterical. Yes, right. He rarely gets to do that kind of thing because sort of that big broad character is the Martin Short character of Oliver, right? So he plays it differently. But there was he did have a couple of great moments this season where he thinks he's on testosterone, and the whole scene in the restaurant, and then the next morning,
catching the hibachi vegetables.
Yeah, right. And then Tia Leone scooches over his lap. I mean, just these things that he does.
Climbing the pole.
Yeah, I was gonna say climbing the fire pole. Shimmying, because he's been doing a lot of shimmying this season.
Absolutely. I mean, it's super funny. And, obviously you don't want, too much of that, because then you've got, the good thing about these three is they're really balanced. So, I mean, Mabel is great. Selena Gomez totally gets overlooked for, playing this suffering straight man, straight woman character with the eye rolls and the snarky remarks. But, Oliver and Charles don't work without Mabel being who she is, right?
Right.
And I think the funny thing is, and we can talk about Martin Short in a minute, but I think the funny thing about Selena Gomez being, or I should say Mabel being sort of put off by being wooed by a billionaire, is that Selena Gomez actually is a billionaire.
Yes, she is.
And so it's, there's a lot of little meta things going on this season, and you might say that's one of them.
I just want to say Selena Gomez is a billionaire because she has an incredible business called Rare Beauty, which is honestly freaking awesome makeup that is really affordable and is amazing. And Kevin, you know what else is affordable?
What?
Joining our Patreon.
Oh my goodness, yes, our Patreon. Hold on.
Yeah.
I had a whole thing. If I knew that was coming, I would have pressed that button sooner.
I just
That's
laughed.
the music. Toby, by the way, this is our business section music. I know you've only heard it one other time when we did a live show. That's what this sounds like. For those of you who don't know, Toby doesn't actually listen to our podcast and never has. So when we introduce these elements in post-production, he doesn't know they exist, right?
Right. But now now you're forced to pay attention, right?
Let's go.
All right. Well, let me tell everybody about what they can get. If they join us on Patreon, you get all sorts of exclusive podcasts, including the Crime Writers On After Show. This week on the After Show, Rebecca brought on her friend Mel Barrett, and they talked about the new podcast that is available on Patreon. It's called Something's Off.
It's also on YouTube, by the way, but the audio version is exclusive to Patreon.
Other great shows. Well, of course, you got Something's Off. We got Married with Podcast, our advice podcast. Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast. The next book that Toby's talking about is The Art Thief. You'll be listening for that episode coming out soon. We have Leave It to Bricker, which is Laura Bricker's exclusive podcast. Laura Bricker has been going on a fox hunt. And by fox, we're not talking about Tia Leone.
Yeah.
We're talking about an actual
We're
fox,
talking about
right?
Steve Martin.
Can you believe what David Duchovny did to that poor woman?
I can't.
Yeah, they used to be married, and then he was like a sex addict, and then they got divorced. It was very sad.
was very sad. It was very sad.
The
Way to
fox
bring the room
that I
down.
found was not a sex addict,
Oh, sorry.
sadly.
Was
That
it
you know
Fox
of.
Mulder?
Not that I know of.
Fox Mulder. Oh, wow. Very good, Toby.
Yeah.
Well played. Well played. If you join us at the Let's Do What We Do level, you get these episodes of Crime Writers on early and ad-free, and early unless we're recording it 8 hours before it actually comes out. And if you're a deep diver, you get all of that. Plus, you'll get to be in the chat, in the group, maybe even jump on the screen when Toby Ball does his recordings. Toby, you're doing your next deep dive recording on Monday, and what is the book that you're talking about?
It's called By the Fire We Carry by Rebecca Nagel, and we actually listened to the podcast that this book is based on, which was called something, Our Land, maybe? It's basically...
Land, yeah.
It's basically a murder in Oklahoma, and the way they're trying to get this guy, from not being executed is to say that it happened on reservation land, and it goes up to the Supreme Court, and the whole thing is that if they say, yeah, that's reservation land, that means like half of Oklahoma qualifies to be reservation land.
As it should.
So, oh yeah, of course. So it's kind of split between this sort of the story of the murder and then what happens afterwards, and then like the history of that region of Native American nations and how they related to U.S. expansion stuff. It's interesting. It's interesting.
Sounds nerdy as hell, but in a good way.
Yeah, it's not a beach read for sure.
Now, the ways you can support us is to check out our Amazon storefront. It's very easy. You can see some of our favorite things when you go there. It's at amazon.com/shop/Crime Writers On. So when you're on your desktop or your laptop and you're doing your shopping, go there first and see what some of our recommendations are. Rebecca, what are this week's Amazon recommendations?
All right. So this weekend, I know you hate it when I tell a whole fucking story around this, but this weekend we went away for my birthday to the Encore in Boston. We had a great time. While we were there, I went to like the store they have there, and I bought like a kick-ass dress, remember?
Yep.
And that dress came in like a garment bag, like a store garment bag, not like a luggage garment bag. And I thought, I wonder if they sell these, because it feels really special when your outfit is like in this thing in your
sure
closet.
You weren't like, I wish I could buy one of these to put a body in because it's about the right size?
No.
Okay.
But I bought like a 12-pack of these garment bags so inexpensively, and they're exactly like the one they gave me at the store. So now I'm going to put all my dresses in them so my dresses feel a little more special as I continue with my closet project. I have a long-term closet project going on.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You want to help
Kevin's
me with
like,
mine
shut
next?
the fuck up.
And Toby, can you tell us what are our listener-inspired Toby Ball's deep cut recommendations?
Well, I too am very concerned that my clothes feel special.
Yes.
But that has nothing to do with what I'm picking here. All right, here we go. 300 PCS cake pop sticks and wrappers kit.
Oh, fun.
Including 100 CT 6-inch paper lollipop sticks, 100 CT clear candy treat bags parcel, 100 CT gold twist ties 4.
I think that
good,
CT is count, I think.
It's probably count, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to make assumptions for our listeners. They can figure it out, teach a man to fish. And then the second thing we got here, again, it's intriguing. Speedo unisex adult swim training snorkel bullet head. That's all there
Swim
is.
training bullet head. Okay.
Sounds like a vibrator.
I think it makes you swim faster.
You think having a bullet
Or
head makes you
something
swim
else faster.
It might, or get in
With
quicker.
a snorkel? I was thinking that it might be one of those things so you don't have to like turn your head and breathe. Like you can just like plow straight ahead because it's got a snorkel and a bullet head.
Persephone
but I'm not
in
sure.
our chat says it's so you don't have to shave your head, which
So
I
you
know
don't
all
have to
swimmers generally do.
Is that why I suck at swimming? Is because I haven't shaved my head?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
you need a
same.
big bullet head.
Same.
All right.
My head's not bullety enough.
That's right. Well, you got time. You got time to work on that.
That's fantastic. What can I say other than to say shop us first at Amazon.com/shop/Crime Writers On. We earn commissions on qualified purchases. Just buy the stuff you would buy anyway, but use our link.
That's right. So, Kevin, before we end the business section, I have a question for you. It's an important one. Do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Heather Jackson and Emily Riddick.
Heather and
Bless
Emily.
you.
Heather,
Hey,
ready? Bless you.
Well, that's my line. All right.
tight.
Touchdown. I'm shutting off your microphone. Your microphone shut off.
You
Ready?
see what Laura and I put up with every single week?
Oh my God.
Bless you.
This is why I'm in a
I hate
cave
you
right
so
now.
much.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Emily, for supporting us on Patreon. Thanks to everybody who belongs to our Patreon. We're so happy to make extra content for you, and we're so grateful that you support us by helping pay for it. So, Kevin, does thus end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
Go ahead and take that music out. All right. So, Kevin, there is one podcasting industry joke here. You know how much I love when they actually talk about podcast shit on this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is the good joke here?
Oh, well, as Laura alluded to, it is the gag about, well, first of all, it's Wonderfy, right? So it's a mix-up of Wondery and Spotify.
Yeah.
So it's like, certainly a wink at anybody who knows what's going on, but it's the introduction of the true crime podcast, Drunk Sluts on Murder.
Yes.
I mean, it's hilarious on so many different levels. It works on so many different levels. I mean,
What do the wine and crime women think when they hear that shit? They're like, oh, that's us.
I mean, when we see, first of all, it's great, like when we go into the Wonderfy studios and we see them podcasting, I mean, filming.
Yes. Which is podcasting.
I guess so. I hate that. But they say like
Something's off is on film.
They're like on their 9th drink of they're on their 9th episode already. They're crushing it. Yeah. But I mean, it's like one of these meta commentaries on different kinds of true crime podcasting, and
just name names, Kevin.
I mean anything.
Crime Junkie, Wine and Crime.
Well, it's
My Favorite Murder.
It's the one with the
chat
drinks in
podcast.
not just the chat ones, but the one where you drink. I don't know, they're all the Wikipedia ones. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. It's just certainly compared to the earnestness of the Only Murders in the Building podcast.
Yes.
I just found that to be super funny.
So, Laura, there is adventure in this season.
Oh, yes.
They do go to Bash's country estate to try and make inroads in the mystery. Could you talk about a little bit about what they encounter there?
This is like one of my favorite scenes so far in Only Murders. Like, I was like, Lance, you've got to see this scene. Oh my God. It's I think one of the creepier scenes we've seen. So they go out to the country estate and they're walking up, they're arguing, getting up, and they turn. And there is like the creepiest fucking kid you've ever seen whittling a shiv. And also, I'd like to say, he looks partial, like they've done the makeup perfectly. Like he's pale, his hair is like parted straight in the middle. And when I was talking about like the throwback to old New York, like he's dressed like a throwback to old New York. And he's just sitting there and they're like, huh, okay. And I'm like, this is fantastic. Like, where's your dad? Or maybe your grandpa? And then he's like inside with the others. And you're like, and he says, Father says, I can't go inside because I would have to go in the cellar or something. But little Algie, and then we see him again. He just pops up at random times. And I'm only sad that he didn't kill something in this because he pops up again when they're having their little game time behind all the heads of dead animals. And then he pops up again out when they all like split up to go talk to their, respective targets. So Steve Martin goes out to talk to Bash and he's out there skinning a tree, which, is appropriate because the boy says, the first thing he says to Martin Short is like, I like your skin. And then he's like, Algie loves these little treats that I give him from this, So I thought that was a great character. But that whole scene out there was such adventure because then when, Oliver is like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And he takes off in his cowboy boots. They're giving him blisters and encounters this couple who clearly think he's escaped from the nursing home and that he's got like sundowner syndrome. Like it gets bad late in the day,
Silver alert.
Yeah.
Silver alert. Yeah.
And when you listen, you hear the context. It's perfect because Oliver's just going on and on about things that you would be like, if someone told me this, I'd be like, they're totally full of shit. Like this is not true. But then the finale, did anybody else scream when Martin Short came driving in on a tractor?
Yes.
I was very excited about that scene. I was like, I can drive a tractor.
Well, you're the only one of us I think who can. I mean, that's the most exciting thing about you.
Kevin could drive a tractor.
Yeah, I think he can. We used to have like a riding
Rebecca
boat.
and I have no chance, but
We have no skills.
Toby's going to
Kevin
learn
can.
when he
Toby
goes
can
to
drive a
Spain.
boat, and that's hard.
no.
So, Toby, you mentioned Christopher Waltz's performance, but what do you think about the archetypal billionaire that he's playing? Because he does a lot of billionaire things, and one of the things that I love that they talk about is his plan to live forever, which is, I think, the most fascinatingly weird thing about real-life billionaires is that
Yes.
they not only want to live forever, but they've hired private doctors to help them live forever. If you watch 60 Minutes this week, you know what I'm talking
If
about.
you had $1 billion, of course.
Minutes?
Yeah, the $100,000 a visit doctor was on 60 Minutes this week. But these people want to live forever.
About this. I pitched a podcast called Immortality This Week.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious. I mean, it's funny because it is like, I think Peter Thiel gets his blood like recycled with the blood of like young girls or something. But he does.
And people wonder why other people believe QAnon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just going to recycle my blood.
I think at one point Steve Martin maybe asked him like, how old are you? And his reply is, which organs? So yeah, I mean, I find that whole, it's not even a subculture. It's like a few dudes, but I find it all pretty fascinating that it's the same guys who are doing like AI and trying to like keep us from doing anything about climate change. So they want to live forever into like a world that is just burning.
But they're rich, so they'll be fine because they'll have bunkers in Maui.
They'll have a bunker, which will be awesome for them.
For the Maldives.
Yeah, no, I thought it was, again, this is a smart show. Like when they want to like kind of lampoon people or skewer people, they do it well. Like their aim is pretty sharp. And they're sort of gentle in a lot of ways, but they're, it's like a slightly dull scalpel, it's pretty the details are right.
Yeah. So if I have a criticism of this season, which I don't know if any of you share, it's that there's a lot of stuff crammed in this season. A lot of plot lines. There's a freaking robot, for goodness sakes.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
There's a pop star. There's the mafia sons,
Yeah.
The five. There's a lot. It's like a Pandora's box of stuff. But I think for me, the most confounding plot point was the robot. What do you think about the robot, Kevin?
The AI, well, which one? The first one or the second one? Okay, well, the robot, I mean, we had to have the excuse of how something could be videotaped when no one else is around. I mean, so that comes on way in the end.
They also had the bird feeder with the camera.
The bird feeder.
That's my favorite plot twist.
Yeah. I would say probably one of my favorite moments from the season is this sight gag involving the robot. And I have the thing queued up here, and hopefully we can play it.
I just wish we could ask Lester.
Maybe we can? Howard said that Lester's Arconia paperwork got uploaded into the robot. So basically we just have to get our hands on it. That was the robot, wasn't it?
The timing
is
amazing. The whole I mean, that's what sight gags are, right? It's supposed to be surprising, and it plays on absurdity and impossibility, and whoever the editor is probably worked on that for an hour, going frame by frame to like, how do we have it hit just at the right time? The split secondness of it. It was just so freaking funny. I loved that little bit there. But otherwise, the robot, I mean, it's just...
It is what it is. Well, we had in previous seasons the view of them through cameras. We had them being on TV. We also had the one with the hidden cameras, that whole episode. And then we also had the film school episode where they were cameras. I mean, there's been like a bunch of camera... There always has to be, it seems, one episode that's like looking at them through a lens. And that served the purpose here. Another thing that you just mentioned, Laura, is the bird watching thing, which in Task, which we just reviewed, was sort of an extraneous character development detail, but here that being a bird watcher actually has a plot purpose, right?
Right. And I watched this twice. I went back and watched it twice. Lance didn't get to watch the whole thing the first time, so I'm like, this is good. I will be very prepared for our live show. So you see the bird theme a lot when you go back after you see the ending and you realize why this is so relevant. You see Lester reading the bird guide when he's sitting at his desk. He's talking to Nikki, the dead gangster, at one point about how certain bird, you can give them raisins and they go crazy for it. And you see the bird camera in the beginning and you don't think much of it. And then you see the one-eyed patch guy on his Peloton that he's really upset doing his, and all of a sudden you see like bird alert and you're like, that's interesting. And that was just so fun to see that this particular, Lester's favorite bird, and he had the bird call. And that was what activated this camera. So there's like an alert, there's a bird. And that he thought to do that at the end to turn that camera on because he knew what was happening. And I think the bird part was, I thought it was super fun. I thought, I liked how his wife, Lester's wife, when she came in, was like, oh, you're this bird, you're that bird. And I was like, I think it might be fun for our listeners here tonight. What
Yeah.
bird are all of the crime writers?
Oh,
no.
I'm a cardinal. Because here's the whole thing.
Well, I think people should tell us what they think we are. I think that
No,
would
I'm
be
just
fun.
telling you. I'm telling you that I'm a cardinal. Here's why.
Here's why.
They're red, which has no advantage. Like they're just there. And I'm like, how are you? Why are you? How is this helpful that you're bright red? I feel like that's me. I'm just like there, and like I serve very few practical purposes. I'm just sort of loud and here. That's
You're showy.
Isn't it,
that's
it so they can have sex? Isn't it like
Oh.
Nope.
to attract
Oh.
the ladies?
No.
this one's for the ladies.
Oh.
Because it's male cardinals, right? Female cardinals are like
That's true. It's always the males that are pretty. The male blue
Right, yeah.
jays, the male cardinals.
They
yeah.
need it. Yeah.
it's about getting chicks.
Yes, yes. Speaking of getting
And
chicks.
eggs. Fertilizing them eggs.
Speaking of getting chicks or partners, Toby, what did you think about Howard's emergence as a more upfront character? We see him have some romance with one of Taya Leone's sons. And by the way, someone in the chat, because we're recording this live, just said that Taya Leone is too young to have sons that old. Guys, I am 52 and I have kids in my 20s. She's not too old to have kids in her 20s. Just saying.
Couldn't you tell from the context clues that that character, they got married in the 80s?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was still 10 years earlier than Lester and his wife getting married, who apparently Lester took that job in the 90s.
And they look much younger.
And they look much younger.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's that time-space continuum thing is
Listen,
just weird.
Lester,
here.
he's had a hard life. Let's just put it that way.
He's a doorman's 50. I get it. Yeah.
So Toby, Howard, thoughts?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he's always been kind of a funny character, but it's weird because this time he's not like pet obsessed. He's sort of has this weird relationship with the robot, and I wasn't sure if that was like, were they trying to like sort of like, I don't know, draw a line between that and like these people who like fall in love with like Chat GPT and, you know, leave their wives to live with Chat GPT and stuff. I don't know. I mean, it was just kind of interesting that technology stood in for like living pets in this one. So I thought that was fine. I mean, for me, and I hate to say this, but Laura was kind of hinting at it earlier. It was really all the Meryl Streep stuff. I thought just like brought this season to a screeching halt.
I agree.
It was just like, my God, what is going on here? Like there was like an episode that had like 20 minutes of her and Martin Short just like kind of cavorting around.
Yeah.
And then,
Or
like,
talking about moving, which you
Yeah.
know is not going to happen.
Yeah,
It's not
no,
only murders
yeah.
in Martin Short and Meryl Streep's apartment. It's only murders in this building. Like, I do think that taking her out of the frame, sending her to New Zealand is fine, but then they keep bringing her back. It's like either have her or don't have her. And when you have her, don't feel like you have to use her just because she's Meryl Streep. That's how it
Yeah,
is
and
to
then
me.
it's like doing
Right.
this weird, like pretending she's like a French psychic or something. And
Celebrate.
it was like, it was kind of funny for like 30 seconds. And then
Yeah.
it just kind of went on and on and on. I'm like, do we have to do this? Can't we just like have the normal people do this stuff? So anyway,
Kevin, you have a scene that you loved in the show, which I also loved. And that is when Charles and Mabel have to do trivia, high stakes
that was
trivia.
a great scene.
Yeah,
was
What did
good.
you like about that
password
scene?
or something. Yeah, no, that was great. I actually, Martin Short again, great this season. He chews the scenery in appropriate ways. He's such a great character. But I think that the best Oliver scene was one where he wasn't in, which is when Mabel and Charles have to, play. It's like password, right? Guess the thing, and it's all Broadway stuff. And of course, they don't know anything, but they figure it out because
Of what Charles knows?
because of his stupid aside stories, and he's like, "This is the woman that he borrowed the boots from." Like, let her laughing.
This is the person who's Oliver says stole his hairstyle. That was I like that one.
Exactly. Yeah, that was super funny. That was absolutely funny. But I will say that that I think that what this show does best, and Toby alluded to it, is the idea that it explores the themes of loneliness with clowns, right? When you see a clown with a sad face, it's sad, but it's also just more melancholy. And so this is kind of like one of the tones of Only Murders in the Building. It's somewhat slapstick and farcical. It's very funny, but it's also built on sort of these themes of people who are looking for connections and are kind of sad. And I do think one of the better scenes that illustrated this was towards the end, where it's the Last Supper night, and Howard comes over and sort of like finally expresses to Charles like why he's been obsessed with this robot. And Charles just says something along the lines of like, we haven't been good neighbors to each other. Yeah. Not just that, kind of meant collectively, right? And I just thought like, oh man, that was really poignant. And it's, something very much of like what we normally see from, the better parts of when Only the Murderers goes highbrow.
So, Laura, I just want to ask you before we wrap it up. I do love when this show pokes subversive fun at podcasting. I love it. It's like one of my favorite things about the show. And there's some things playing out in the podcast world just this week that illustrate this, that people who would do a certain kind of true crime podcast take themselves so fucking seriously. So seriously. Mm-hmm. And they sort of poke fun at that this season because they all think they can do an autopsy.
Oh, yeah. I was like, it was only a matter of time, right? And I'm like, so not only do they do the autopsy, but they're wheeling this dead, apparently very smelly body around in this, laundry carriage from the dry cleaner. And then they just roll Nikki out on the counter. And Mabel does her great, one-liner. Well, how do you think he died? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb. I think it's probably the cleaver to the chest or whatever she says. And, that whole, I'm like, this, like, what can you tell? Okay, this is not an autopsy, but they're like thinking they're doing their own post-mortem here. They're like, oh, there's like white on his nose. And I think Oliver's like, I miss cocaine, And, they're like, you're awfully cheery to be doing this autopsy. Oh, well. And they pull the, paper out of his mouth and they look at him and they're like, and then especially interesting, I'm like, I have no idea how they had this particular knowledge where they're like looking to see if there's like the larvae from the, flies that
flies.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, yes. And I'm like, you don't know what you're like. So, but
Well, they read all the Scarpetta books. That's where that comes from.
Exactly. So it was only a matter of time before they did their own postmortem. Yeah, that part was good. And that was, again, I just want to say, we were talking about Selena Gomez before. I just have to say her one-liners, I think the writing this season with some of the one-liners that she had were just so well delivered. Like she's going to that ladies' night and they're like, should you bring a party favor? And she's like, I don't know, some tampons. And like Renee Zellweger's character, Camilla, when, she's like, I am giving the people of New York what they want. And she's like, a gambling addiction. Like I just felt like these really well delivered, well written, very punchy dialogue lines with particularly Mabel's character. This season to me felt like they were, I feel like they had somebody different writing or helping, or maybe they're just, because it just felt like the writing was a lot snappier in certain scenes with that character in particular. I don't know if others noticed that.
So, Toby, this show always ends with another body that's going to set up the next season. And we've heard the next season is going to take place, or some of it at least is going to take place in London. And the big twist at the end of the final episode is it's Cinda Canning, the show's own Sarah Koenig, who is the next murder victim.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's nice to see that they're going to do another one. I hadn't heard anything about them, like it taking place in London, and I was kind of like, why are they talking about London? And then there she is. It'd be kind of funny to see them sort of out of their element. So I guess that's good. I mean, one of the things I was going to say, which I guess maybe this addresses, is that there's a certain sameness to all the seasons. I mean, the writing's excellent, the acting's top shelf, all this stuff, but it's always in the same place. It's a lot of the same like themes and stuff like that. So the idea that they would mix it up a little bit by not by necessarily changing the tone or anything, but just by changing the physical location, like maybe that like is a little shock to the system. See what happens. Although I did think I thought this was probably the strongest season, maybe since season 1 or season 2. I thought they'd really I thought this was a lot tighter than the last couple of seasons.
Okay, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out Only Murders in the Building, Season 5? Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for this season of Only Murders in the Building?
Yeah, this is a thumbs up. This show is one of those like comfort food shows that you can return to in the fall as you're kind of segueing into winter, get cozy and get ready for some cozy murder. Somebody dies. We don't really care too much about the person who died. So it's more fun to watch, just like a good cozy mystery. I think, Selena Gomez for me this season particularly stood out. I felt like her character has really hit kind of a peak in terms of the delivery of the lines, the evolution of the character. The mystery isn't usually, for me, what is so front and center. I think it's more the character of the building and the people and the quirky characters, which is what really makes a good cozy mystery. And one of the things when you're writing cozy mysteries that can be a challenge, it's like think of, or, watching others like Midsummer Murders, is that these little closed communities where cozy mysteries take place often get really overwhelmed with new characters every season. And then what do you do? Like Midsummer Murders, how can you keep up with all those characters? Only Murders in the Building is starting to get to that. And I think that's my only criticism of this season is they brought in so many characters and so many celebrities that are now, or well-known actors, actresses that are now on the show, that for me, that is maybe taking a little bit away from the three main characters. But in the end of the day, like I watched this twice. It's super fun and it's great water cooler conversation. So many people are watching it. I was out and about last night in Exeter and someone's like, "Oh, are you watching the new Only Murders?" And I'm like, "Of course I am." So it's just one of those shows that kind of brings people together, not only in the Arconia, but when you're out and about at work or in town, it's something that people want to talk about. So it is a thumbs up for me.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for this season of Only Murders in the Building?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Laura said. And, this is the 5th season we've done. And so a lot of my reactions are the same as they were the first 4 seasons. So I'll just, again, Steve Martin is my favorite guy since I was like 8 years old or whatever.
Your favorite guy.
See him.
Toby.
And I felt like, again, I mean, there's a certain sameness to these. That's not really a criticism because it's part of what makes it feel, comforting. It's like comfort food and stuff. I just kind of felt like the writing was a little sharper in this season than it's been for a couple seasons, maybe even the best one since the first season. And I also thought, I don't know how topical they're trying to be or whatever, but the theme of sort of community and sort of not necessarily what we owe to people, but what we should sort of give to people who are in our orbit as, by providing people for community, especially if they don't sort of naturally have that, I thought was like, especially in this day and age, was like a very sort of a good message to get across. So anyway, again, if I was going to rank the seasons, I would probably have this second to season 1 because it was just season 1 was just it came out of nowhere. It's like, what is this? So big thumbs up from me.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up, obviously. Let me just start with the criticism that I do have is that if I could change one thing, I would make this 8 episodes a season instead of 10. Just coming off of Task, I was just, kind of taken by the idea of like how how like the action can suddenly start to drag if you go on too long. I mean, some of Only Murder in the Building's like most memorable episodes are those one-offs, right? Like the trip to Long Island to Charles' sisters, and the one episode that was silent. It was told through Theo's perspective, the deaf character. Those are quite, and the musical. I mean, like, how about that as like a huge...
The Pickwick triplets?
Yes, which of the Pickwick triplets did it? Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think the thing is that what we want is that you don't want the story to sort of like run out of momentum. And that's hard because with a murder mystery, the climax isn't until Act 2 of episode 10. It isn't like the big shootout in the penultimate episode of Task, right? So you have to keep it going. And sometimes those one-off episodes, they border on filler, and that we only consider them filler if they're not entertaining.
They're not genius.
And this continues to be entertaining. So, okay. So that being said, aside from that, I do really love how consistent and dependable this comedy is. I just love these 3 actors, and I love these 3 characters. They are just so unique. Martin Short gets all of the awards buzz and he deserves it. Selena Gomez is sort of tragically overlooked for all the praise that she gets. She doesn't get enough for this very unique character that she has developed. She's not playing Selena Gomez. She's playing a really great character here. And of course, Steve Martin, I mean, just always been the best. And, this is kind of, I know Steve Martin has said, like, this is the last thing that he'll do professionally, or intimated that. I've heard presidents say the same thing. Really, you believe them at your own expense. But I just love everything about Only Murders in the Building as somebody who's in true crime podcasting. I have an affinity for it. It speaks to me on a different level, but I think that any fan of mysteries has got to love this show, and I'm just so happy that it continues to do so well.
Yeah, I really love this season too. My biggest issue is that it tried to accomplish too much. I mean, there were so many second tier, third tier storylines. Meryl Streep, which I do believe I love Meryl Streep. Don't get me wrong. I think she is, in fact, the greatest actor of our time. Is that right, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. But she definitely does have extended scenes that bring the show down somewhat, and I think that those are too long. I think Beanie Feldstein, again, too many scenes of ancillary characters, except for Christoph Waltz, who could have been in every scene, and I would have been absolutely fine with it. One thing I want to say that I loved about this season is the final scene. I don't want to talk about it too much for those who haven't seen it, but the final scene actually speaks to exactly what folks are saying is this show something that should end soon so it doesn't jump the shark? And there's a line in the final scene which is what counts as a murder in the building, that I thought was exceedingly clever and sort of put in summation my feelings about the show, which is that when it strays far from what it's doing, it doesn't feel as homey as when it keeps very close to what it's great at doing, which is these three principles: making a thing that is a pop culture phenomenon, making fun of the genre, the community aspect, the cozy aspect. And we really, really wanted to stay close to that. And we really wanted to end on a high note. So I'm really interested to see what they do next season. And I really did enjoy this season. All right, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, do we have a cat of the week this week?
Yes. And Kevin Flynn is going to put it up.
Is he? If we can figure it out.
That's the word on the street.
All right. Here it comes. I'm sorry for those who can't see it. It means you've got your ad blocker on, but some of you can. I know that. There it is.
My ad blocker's on. But I'm going to tell you, this cat, I know, I got that today on something else I was looking at. This is Bethany Everson Na's cat, Marty.
Oh.
Marty was attempting to blend in with our decorations. I promised my son I would post her picture here. By the way, he calls Laura the cat lady, Rebecca the owl lady. Kevin and Toby, your nicknames are still being decided at time of this posting.
All right.
Bethany is one of our regular listeners. Bethany is also my fellow justice warrior who helped me out when I had a stove that was a lemon and they refused to take it back. And she's a lawyer who does consumer protection. And we fought the man. And then a year later, she had an appliance and she had to fight the man herself about her own appliance.
Yes.
So I love Bethany. I love the cat and its seasonal decor. Kind of reminds me of the cat nativity that I'm hoping to get somebody for Christmas this year. So
yeah.
There we go.
I super love Bethany. Congratulations, Bethany, on having your cat be Cat of the Week. Laura Bricker, of course, folks can email us, crimewriterson@gmail.com, or put their pets or any kind of animal or animal story on our Facebook group. But if they want to reach out to you individually online, how can they find you there?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Instagram and Blue Sky.
What about you, Toby? How can you be found online?
I'm at Tobyball and H on Blue Sky, at Tobyball603 on Instagram. The trailer for Rip Current Season 2 is out. Listen to More Like Agent Aliens, and that's my pitch.
What about you, Kevin?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
I am on a show with Mel Barrett called Something's Off on YouTube. Please check it out on the YouTube version. Subscribe. Even if you never watch stuff on YouTube, I'd super appreciate it if you subscribed. Of course, you can get the audio version of that on Patreon. You can follow me everywhere online at Reb Lavoie, and you can follow the show everywhere online at Crime Writers On. You can follow us on TikTok, etc. But really, I encourage you to join our Facebook group. That's where hardcore fans are. That's where we talk to each other. It's a really wonderful place. You can get all the stuff we make.
And come for our live streams
That's
once
right.
in a while.
That's
you get
right.
to see us yelling at each other.
That's right. You can go to patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media to get all of our stuff. So much stuff. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons. That's him right now, playing those instruments. Our editor is the wonderful Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin. This show was recorded in Studio C, The Closet, in our New Hampshire basement, where we also, by the way, you can't see it because it's under our feet, have a luxurious underground casino. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.